Nothing has ever, I'm starting the sermon now. So, nothing has ever been sliced so thin that it doesn't have two sides. And this is something important for us to kind of be thinking about. There's your side and there's the other side. There's the side you see, and then because that's what you're looking at, that's your choice, but then there's a side that you don't see. And the benefit of having more to see and then understand and know and work with is to look for the side you can't see. I'll never forget this. One time, Virginia needed a battery in her watch. I'm married to Virginia. We've been married almost 30 years, 30 long years. And she needed a battery for her watch. We pulled up in front of the jewelry store where they were, and next to it was a wig shop. And a woman that was really messy looking was going into the wig shop. And I said, oh, good for her. Maybe she'll go get a wig and that'll make her look better. And Virginia said, maybe she's undergoing some kind of chemotherapy and she needs a wig for that. And that maybe she may not be able to look as good as she would if she felt better. I just really felt stupid and bad because I had seen my side of the slice instead of the whole thing. So I'm going to share some ideas with you today about the slice and your side and the other side, and how we can reach a tipping point, and how we can do this spiritually. So, first of all, let me explain what a tipping point is. A tipping point is a threshold that is reached, and once it is crossed, you can go back, but you want to keep going forward because things start to change incredibly wonderfully for the good of all. And a tipping point also, I just have these notes because I do not want to miss this, is a point of critical mass. It is a threshold. It is an unstoppable effect of change, and it is significant momentum. And you have reached many tipping points in your lifetime, spiritual and worldly. And in these tipping points, you've gotten to a place where you kept on doing something, and it got you balanced, and then it gave you an advantage. And having the advantage, you rolled forward faster. If what you were doing was good. If what you were doing was not productive, you moved forward faster in more non-productivity. And that's the other side of the slice. So I can best illustrate this when you were a little kid and you saw that seesaw on the playground. Now, I know you did this. You got on it and you sat there and you hoped that someone else would come and be the balance. But until they got there, you sat there with your end on the ground and you looked up, you saw the bar in the middle where the threshold would be once you crossed it, and then you saw the end that was sticking up in the air. Now, it would be really sweet if you could go back and tell that beautiful little child about her future. And maybe that'd be a good thing to have as a meditation someday, just to go back and tell that child how to be patient and what to be patient for, and to understand what's going on, and whatever they would go through or were going through at the time or would have to go through, could give sage advice. Maybe that little something that you thought was a guardian angel was your future that talking back to you. And maybe you could listen to what's going on now, and maybe your future possibilities would speak to you and give you some encouragement, help you hang in there. But anyway, I know you sat there and I know you saw that end up there, and I think you either slowly eased up there standing up, or you crawled up there And it's probably so long ago you don't remember. But anyway, you got up to the middle. And when you were in the middle, then you either stood there with one foot on the part that was touching the ground and the other foot on the part that was up in the air, and eventually it shifted and you were balanced. You balanced yourself. That's your threshold. That's your point of critical mass. That's where it starts to change. And then I think probably what you did, because it was easy and you weren't going to fall off, you then advanced beyond the threshold and got on the part that had been up in the air, and you made that part touch the ground, and it was easy getting there. It wasn't a climb up, it was a roll down, because you had reached that critical mass. Okay, so here's the spiritual principle. The spiritual principle is, anything you keep on doing will eventually build up to a critical mass where you'll reach a threshold and you'll break through and you'll have the benefit of what you were doing, and it will be easier and better and smoother and effortlessly easier for you to keep moving forward. Now, that's the tipping point that we want to reach. And this can be proven by the epidemiologist. Now, if you don't believe me, you just ask your epidemiologist, and if you don't have one, you can get one online. An epidemiologist is a person who is a graduate of the School of Epidemiology. And epidemiology, I know you already know all this, but epidemiology, well, I'm married to a PhD, and she's just the smartest, loveliest woman I've ever known. And she says, Arthur, you just can't get up there and talk about all these lovely principles without having some kind of scientific proof, because otherwise you look silly. And she doesn't understand the audience, how you are and how forgiving you are. But anyway, for those of you, so that I don't look silly, I found this, I did the research, and I found out that epidemiology is the study of the human condition. And the epidemiologists that have affected your life the most have affected it about every year during flu season, because they say that a certain number of people have been to the doctor, have ordered prescription, have taken off-the-shelf medications, and have taken doctor-prescribed medication. And this means that when the population reaches a certain amount, the census of the country reaches a certain amount of people that are affected by a situation, then it can either become a mild issue or it could become an epidemic. And so the epidemiologists are the ones that study this. So the idea of a spiritual tipping point, the idea of a tipping point at all, can be proven and supported by all those intelligent people that do that kind of stuff. So that's epidemiology. There is proof that this is a principle. So, but then you can prove it and have proven it several times in your life when you've done something over and over and over with love and consistency, maybe a little bit of doubt and a little bit of, I'm sure, hoping this works. But you've hung in there, and eventually you've reached that point where the scales tip, and it's easier for you to keep on keeping on, and the results that you manifest are meaningful and significant. That's the tipping point. And so the word tip is not really a word, it's an acronym. And we are all tippers. We tip. You probably tip somehow most every day, several times a week. And our English friends created the word, or the acronym TIP, T-I-P. It means to ensure promptness. So here's how it works. You know this, but let's just line it up. You leave a tip for your server You haven't left it yet because you just ordered. And they know that they're going to receive a tip from you, and they know that they're getting paid by the owner of the establishment, not very much. So they really need your tip to round things out for them. They know you're going to leave them a tip, and so they try, if they're with it, to give you the best service, to make sure your water's full, you got butter on your plate, more rolls, anything that you need. And the more that they satisfy you, the chances are, the possibilities exist for them to receive a larger tip. So that's how tips work. Now, I worked for 8 months while I was going to seminary in the state of Missouri, in Kansas City. And I worked at the nicest French restaurant in town. It was like Mr. A's is here. It was beautiful. And it was a special occasion place. And I had all the food I could eat, steak Diane and poulet flambe every night, and escargot all the time. And it was a lovely place to work. And I worked for tips because in 1968, the minimum wage in Missouri was 79 cents an hour. So that's what I made. That's what everybody made. We didn't fuss. We were happy to have jobs. But when in this special occasion place, there would be people, I saw people men get on their knees and open little boxes with big diamonds in them and propose. There were people that had wedding anniversaries, and the mayor and the governor of Kansas and the governor of Missouri on separate occasions came in, and there were show people, and it was a very, very exciting place. And I earned tips, and I learned that the more service I gave, the better things worked for me, the bigger my tip. And I learned, too, that some people can be astonishingly stingy, cheap, and rude. And I had my share of them, too. And how they were did not affect how I was. So that was a little test, an opportunity for me to show my stuff to me. And it was just so perfect because I was learning to serve, and I then, upon being ordained, and Gay knows about this, to live a life of service. And so and Marilyn knows this too, to serve. And then once you have your priorities right and you understand how that works, then you can be a servant and know that you're going to reap the kinds of rewards that a servant like you deserves. So the more you serve, the more you give. And we all are servants of the light. So it just should be our pleasure. So, but I was learning to serve the world, the diamonds, pearls, furs, and steak. And also then I had the opportunity to work for Silent Unity, which is the prayer ministry of Unity School of Christianity. And so I was serving spiritually over the phone to answer calls 2 nights a week, and then to serve with wearing a tuxedo the other 5 nights a week at the Top of the Tower restaurant. So it was a wonderful experience, and I learned about tipping, and I learned how to tip, and not only how to serve, but then how to tip. And I think it would be good to pass on to you the importance of being a big tipper, because an extra $1 that you leave for a server is a bigger dollar for them than it is if you keep it for you. And if you give lovingly of your time and your money and your gift, and you give it big, then you create a big void for more of your big to come to you. So it's a flow thing that you want to do. And just for the heck of it, in my wallet, all of my dollars, and I have them all in order. It's called feng shui, and I put that in order so that there's more order in all of my life, and it spills over. And I have the green side up, and green is not for is not the money, color of money. It's not for prosperity. It's for growth. And so you don't want to have more money. You want to grow more, and then the money comes. And I have it on the green side because that's where it says on every one of the paper ones, in God we trust, so that God is first. When I open my wallet, I see I'm growing, and then I see that everything's in order. So you might think about doing that. But to leave a tip is to ensure promptness. And when you're generous to someone, then that ensures their service to you and their promptness to you, but it also ensures your promptness from the universe to say, well, God and the world, the unfolding universe says, look at this child of mine. They're being so good. They're doing the right thing. They're expressing their uniqueness. I just can't let this go unrecognized. And so we set ourselves up. So now we've talked about the meaning of the tipping point, the spiritual tipping point, the importance of a tip. And then I have to tell you this part, and I'm sorry about this, but I'm in sales, I'm not in management. You're in management. So on the slice, as you do good over and over and over, as you believe in someone over and over and over, as you give back over and over and over, and as you understand and forgive and let the people that drive silly just go on, and over and over and over, you will eventually reach a tipping point where everything goes in your favor incredibly, astonishingly smoothly. And it's like, wow, I've made my breakthrough. I reached my point, my threshold, my change where there was a positive effect because I just kept keeping on. Now then the other side of the slice is, if you don't take the opportunity to look at something that you're doing that isn't creative and positive and loving and wonderful, and you don't see how you could stop that, then it's going to go on and get you to a critical point where it's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be pleasant, it's not going to be fun, and you're going to say, what happened? You happened not to happen in the right way. So there's a spiritual tipping point that we all must be aware of. So you need to know that when something rubs you the wrong way, we need to make a note of it. And when we can, we need to check it out and say, why would I let that upset me? Why would I let that bother me? What don't I understand about that? Because if I could understand it, then I could live with it, I could forgive it, I could get over it, I could take the refining activity that I'm doing for myself and let that be my tipping point, and I could be beyond this, and that wouldn't bother me anymore, and I could go beyond with my life to do all the things that are needed for me to do, to have the fun and be alive and be thoughtful and generous and caring and of a beneficial presence. So we need to then be alert to the things that are asking for our attention. What? Oh, I'm not sweet enough on this. I'm not kind enough on this. I'm not understanding. I'm not forgiving. Then if we give our attention to that, then we will receive the inspiration to correct it. And then this will be better for us. And we've got people watching us, our neighbors, our loved ones, our grandchildren, our children, the other people around us. And they're just watching to see what we do. And there is a place in your brain that's called a mirror neuron. And this is real interesting to me. We become like what we hang out with. So that, you've seen these people that look like their dog. That's because they kiss that dog on the lips. That's okay. But then if we're going to look at and have the mirror neurons on, and if you know how it works, when there's something that you don't like or that bothers you, you just see it everywhere. There's one. But when you get over that, then you see there's one that, look how far I've come. There's one. Don't have to do that anymore. I'm taking care of myself. I'm evolving up like the responsible person that I am. Okay, then in the giving and the tipping, when you give, you create space for more good to come in. So I would encourage you to give love, give understanding, give forgiveness, give money where it's needed. And if you don't get really good service from somebody, don't give them a big tip so that that's your communication to them. And then when you've got that much more left over because they didn't do right, when somebody comes along and really does right, give that part to them so they go, wow, it pays for me to work this hard and be this nice, Then Edwene Gaines is a Unity minister, and I just love her. She's from Georgia, and she talks funny like I do, and she's got all these things that she says. And she says, if you don't give, now listen to this, if you don't give, the universe will collect it from you. And as Edwene Gaines says, she says you'll back into a shopping cart, or you'll step on your glasses, or your dog will eat your teeth. I can just see it now. So to keep it from being collected, you want to keep it in circulation. And we're not talking just money, although that's good. But also you want to keep circulating your love and your understanding and your forgiveness and your awareness. And when your flow of things, if you find something you just don't like, then find out what it is about that in your belief system that needs to be corrected. And in the mirror neuron section, look at and reflect the things you love and the things you like, and behold them and support them and talk about them. And then don't complain, don't judge, don't do all that stuff, because it's a waste of your creative time. Okay, so I wanted to tell you about Madeline. Virginia and I walk and run 4 miles every day. We didn't do it today because we had our grandchildren last night, and they're 4.5 years old, and they're adorable, and I made pancakes and bacon this morning before I got all this ready. And so we didn't do our run this morning, but we run 4 miles every day. And we do this forever. We've been doing it for years and years. And we live in La Jolla, and we can walk down to the beach and then run on the sidewalk that's by the beach. It's beautiful. And we see all these different people, and we don't know their names, but we know them by sight. And we know their dogs' names, because I can remember their dogs' names, and I don't really have a need to know their names, and they don't need to know my name, but I know their dogs. And when you talk about their dog, there's this one dog whose name is Trace, and he is so cute, and his owner is the most gorgeous woman you've ever seen, next to my wife. And so when you say, hi, Trace, everybody's happy. So I know all the dogs, and I know people that I see. And there's some people that are just moving along, and bless their hearts, you can just tell that life is hard for them, and they're just going, and they don't say good morning or anything like that. Most everybody does. So I just have learned to give them a blessing, and so that I don't damage myself by having an opinion or a judgment on them that doesn't serve me. And then I think they get the blessing. So there was this woman, and I had seen her for years, and she seemed to be a nice-looking person, and she had on a hat, and it was the ugliest hat anybody could ever put on, and it had a brim that was real floppy, and it came down over her eyes, and I'm sure she wore the hat for sun protection, but in order to see, she had to look under the brim, and so then this made her bend down a little, and then look. I never saw her eyes, but I knew her chin because it stuck out. And here she is walking along with this hat. And I'm thinking, lady, if you just had a different hat, it would just make you look more attractive. And the proof of looking attractive, it has benefits. And so I would see her every day. And I never spoke to her. She never spoke to me. She just always seemed so determined to get someplace. And she had this stupid hat on. And so Virginia and I love country music, as you'll find out later in the day. And we go to hear country music and see the rodeo and do our Christmas shopping in Las Vegas the first 14 days of December. It's a lot of fun. And family, kids come, and we just have a whole lot of fun. We have a timeshare there, so we use that. And so I'm doing my run, and I'm getting ready to run the Las Vegas Half Marathon. And so I ran from our timeshare, which is real near the intersection of Las Vegas Boulevard and the MGM Grand, all the way down to the Fremont Experience, which is like 8 miles. And so I did that, and I'm running back, and here is a woman with that hat on, looking so stupid, and I'm thinking, there's 2 of them. One's in La Jolla, and one's in Las Vegas. And the closer she gets, the more identical they look, until she gets up close enough that I see her chin. I know that chin, and it's her. And I'm thinking, Arthur, you've run too far. You're having a hallucination. This can't be that she would get here from there. You know, she probably walked. And I'm thinking, I can't believe it. And then as she passed me, I said, hi. And she just kept going. And I said, I know you. And she just kept going, and I said, La Jolla, and she stopped, and I walked up to her, and there she was, looking, she said, yeah, I recognize you. Is this a circus still up here? I said, yeah. She said, okay, and then just kept going. I thought, I can't believe this. Did this really just happen? But every time I saw her, I told you this part, I gave her a blessing. So because I didn't want to hurt myself, So I kept giving her these blessings, and there she was. And so then about a month later, her boyfriend, who we didn't know it was her boyfriend, is a psychiatrist, and he does seminars, and Virginia goes to them for her continuing education requirements. And he had a birthday party, and he invited everybody, including his girlfriend, who's this woman with the hat. And I knew her because I could recognize her chin. And she turns out to be an anthropologist. She digs and dusts and finds lost civilizations, and she's brilliant person, and she doesn't like the sun on her face, and she walks every day, and she doesn't like to be bothered. She doesn't listen to the radio or anything. She just walks every day. And so, but I got to know her, and I think that giving her my blessing and taking care of myself and letting some of that care spill over to her made a difference. And eventually, I had that experience that I could tell you about in Las Vegas, of all places, and then at a birthday party a month later, until because of the mirror neurons, and there's one, I ran into her other places without the hat on. She would have dinner with her boyfriend, a place where we'd be having dinner, and I just ran into her, and I found out she was a delightful person, not the person that I thought she was just because she looked stupid in the hat. It wasn't her, it was the hat. But I didn't know that, and my side of her slice was just too dark and didn't work. So that was my spiritual tipping point. So then there's something I could invite you to do. It's a little exercise. So first of all, would everybody, so I know you've got one, raise your right hand. So, okay. Now then, who knows about the Day of the Dead? Who knows anything about that? Who really knows about it? Okay. Okay. So, on your slice, there's a part of you that is ignorant of the Day of the Dead. And to me, I always saw those skulls and the brightly colored flowers on, and I didn't know what that was. And I thought it was a Mexican thing and that they knew what it was. So since somebody knew what it was and I didn't have to take care of it, it wasn't going to bother me. But I was on an airplane going to Hong Kong recently, and I had the time to watch 5 movies. And the movie that I watched was Coco.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I watched this movie about the Day of the Dead just because I thought, well, here's an opportunity. I'm not going anyplace or doing anything. I will just sit here and see what I can learn. So I watched the movie. And the movie was delightful. It was beautiful and colorful and so Disney perfect. And it had a great story. And it broadened my experience about the Day of the Dead. So that every time I see one of those skulls surrounded by flowers and color, I have an appreciation for what it means. I have a kind of a special little place in my heart for it, and I understand it. And it was fun for me to get the information, and it came to me with heaps of color and music and entertainment. So here's what I would suggest. I would suggest, since you don't know about that, and that part of you then is empty and needs to be full, that you take it upon yourself to rent the movie. I think that might cost you maybe $3 or $4. And go home and watch it. And watch it with someone you love, or watch it with the grandchildren or whatever. It's not scary with the bones and skulls and things. And when it's over, you will have had an experience with the Day of the Dead, and you will have knowledge and you will have understanding. And then when you go to Old Town with the people that come from out of town that want to see it, and you see one of those things, rather than go, I don't know about that, I haven't taken care of that part, you'll go, I know about that. I took care of myself to learn. I reached a tipping point where my lack of knowing crossed a threshold and tipped me into knowing, and I'm better now than I'm taking care of myself. And so that is a trophy then, instead of a question mark that I see. Okay, then to put all this kind of together, there are the lyrics to a song I'm going to learn someday. And here, listen to this. He was driving home one evening in his beat-up Pontiac when an old lady flagged him down. Her Mercedes had a flat. He could see that she was frightened, standing out there in the snow, till he said, I'm here to help you, ma'am. By the way, my name is Joe. She said, I'm from St. Louis, and I'm only passing through. I must have seen 100 cars go by. This is awfully nice of you. When he changed the tire and closed the trunk and was about to drive away, she said, how much do I owe you? And here's what he had to say. You don't owe me a thing. I've been there too. Someone once helped me out, just the way I'm helping you. If you really want to pay me back, here's what you do. Don't let the chain of love end with you. Well, a few miles down the road, the lady saw a small cafe. When she went inside to grab a bite to eat and then be on her way. But she couldn't help but notice how the waitress smiled so sweet, and how she must have been 8 months along and dead on her feet. And though she didn't know her story, and she probably never will, when the waitress went to get her change from a $100 bill, the lady slipped right out the door and on a napkin left a note. There were tears in the waitress' eyes when she read what she wrote. You don't owe me a thing. I've been there too. Someone once helped me out just the way I'm helping you. If you really want to pay me back, here's what you do. Don't let the chain of love end with you. That night when she got home from work, the waitress climbed into bed. She was thinking about the money and what the lady's note had said. As her husband lay there sleeping, she whispered soft and low, "Everything's gonna be all right. I love you, Joe." Let's bow our heads and close our eyes. And Father, we've had a lesson today about the tipping point. We've learned that as we keep on doing any certain thing, that eventually there's a buildup of results that lead to remarkable outcomes. And may we endeavor to make the kind of effort to make those remarkable outcomes positive instead of remarkably negative. May we catch ourselves when we're doing something that will add to a momentum that we do not want to enjoy in our lives. May we pay attention when we're doing right. May we reward ourselves with a conscious pat on the back that says, keep on. Eventually, your good that you're putting out here will gain weight that will carry you over an edge that will lead to joy and wonder, accomplishment, self-satisfaction, and the knowing that your endeavors paid off to do the right thing. Father, bless us with the fortitude and the ability to keep on keeping on in the right direction. And may we do this knowing that as we do, we build a tipping point for all that good to bless us and to spill over into all the lives that touch ours. For this time together, for this very special spiritual place, we give thanks in your name. Amen.